Hello, and welcome back to the Living by Numbers podcast. My name is Kirsten Foss, and I'm really glad that you're here. Today is the April 2026 energetic forecast, and we are in a 5 energy month. And the numbers, how we get to that is we add up the digits of 2026, 2 plus 2 plus 6, and it actually adds up to 14. And then we reduce it and add the 1 and the 4, we get to 5. But the reason why I'm breaking that down right away, right out of the gate, is because the 1 4 is a karmic debt number. And when it comes to the month of April, being a 5 energy, out of the 1 4, it means that freedom has a price and it's called discipline. So, what if the thing that was standing in between what you want, what you've been wanting, isn't necessarily your circumstances? What if it has to do with your relationship with discipline? Now, that is exactly what April is asking us to look at. And I promise you, by the end of this podcast, you're actually going to look at the word discipline and it's going to feel very different than it feels right now. Because right now, I know it feels really, it's not a great, doesn't feel great. There's a lot of association attributed to discipline. And a lot of times growing up, it's come from a place of negativity. Discipline meant that you were in trouble. Discipline meant that it was hard, that you didn't really want to do, you didn't really want to do it. You had to do it, but you didn't want to do it. So this is why this month, the energy of this month is actually going to teach us about discipline in a very different way that actually supports us and doesn't have us running when we hear the word discipline. So this is a universal forecast, and what that means is that it is the energy for everyone on the planet. We are in a universal 1 energy for the year of 2026, and we are in a universal 5 energy for the month of April. Now, if you don't really understand numerology or you don't quite believe it, that's okay. It doesn't really matter. What I'm going to talk about has very practical applications. So just, maybe try it out. Use what works, ditch what doesn't work. And also, if something doesn't quite land with you, let that go too. But try using numerology in a really practical way in your life and your career this month. One of the reasons why is that every month and every year actually builds upon the last. So it allows us to look at life way less random and to look at it as an actual thread rather than this is happening to me. It's happening for you. A quick little note about how numbers and numerology works. Every year, month, day carries an energetic frequency, an imprint, if you will. And when we add these digits and we reduce these digits to a single number, that's numerology. It's a study of the energetics of the number 1 to 9 because each number has its own personality, it has its own lesson, and it has its own invitation. So for the month of April, the 5 energy is inviting us in to learn about its frequency. Let's dive in. All right. Before we can actually dive into April, we need to frame up and give context to what's actually been happening so far in the year of 2026. 2026 is just the container. It's the container of 1 energy. And it's very similar to the energy, if you've been paying attention to the Chinese astrology, where we moved into a year of the horse. And that energy of the horse is about momentum, speed, forward drive. 1 energy is very much like that as well. However, it has a lot to do with self. Independence. It's almost like you can visualize a person standing. So the energy in numerology of number 1 is inviting us to ask ourselves, what do I want? What do I need? What am I building for myself, for others? The 1 energy is also about responsibility and accountability. So if you listen to my January forecast, which was about 2026, I named this year the year of the new agreement because All throughout the year, it's giving us the opportunity to create a new agreement. Last year was a nine energy, and in numerology, nine is about wrapping up, letting go. It's graduation year. You've learned a lot in the past 9 years, and you are meant to let things go that are not working for you anymore. And you get to decide what those things are. So, in that context, we've just come out of that nine energy year. Well, I guess it's been 3 months now. And it's up leveled us. So we went from nine, now we're at one. So we can look at this year from that lens as an opportunity for us to up level. And when we up level, we get to make new agreements about what we want, what we need, and what you're building in this world for yourself, for your family, for others. But first, it has to come from self. So remember about those new agreements. And maybe start thinking about what agreements feel like they need a new contract now. So we've been talking about one energy year. I feel like, I need to keep reminding myself about that one energy year because it keeps pushing us forward, but it also keeps asking us about self and getting super clear about self. So April isn't just like a five energy month kind of in and of itself, standing alone. No, we have come off of the beginning of a new manifestation cycle. So in January, we were in a two energy month. That was about relationships. And in particular, pairing it with the one, it was what am I giving? What am I receiving? What is my responsibility to self? And what is my responsibility to others? So January was a real mirror for us in terms of giving us some clues about which new agreements need to be created. February, it was a three energy month. Three energy is emotional expression and creativity. So that month was literally giving us the opportunity to say the thing and then to create the thing that you've been thinking about for a while. So if there was anywhere that you were feeling stifled, where you're feeling out of control, where you're feeling overwhelmed, saying it out loud and then starting to create forward that and from that, that is what February was all about. All right, now we moved into March. We've just come out of the March's energy, the four energy about structure, stability. This is about foundational, intentional foundations. March was about intentional foundations. And so it was taking that desire from February, like what do I want to say? What do I want to do? It was taking that desire and then asking, how do I build something for that lasts? No more house of cards. We've all been there, done that. As much as it's sometimes easier to build a house of cards, in the end, we know that it doesn't have a stable of enough foundation to truly support ourselves. So this new agreement year for last month was about very intentional, slow, deliberate, grounded rebuilding. So I'm really curious, what were you rebuilding last year? What was just getting started? There was a structure that was available to you. Now, the low side of that is that you didn't feel grounded at all. You didn't feel stable. You couldn't find your footing. You weren't able to get started building on something. That's okay. We just literally live in a world of duality, a life of duality. The energy of duality is how we as humans operate in this world because this world is all about choices. And if we didn't have black, white duality, we wouldn't have anything to choose from, right? Annoying, I know. Now, as we move into April, and of course, the energies, it's not like, March 31st hits and April 1st comes and like, boom, we're hit with the five energy. No, they kind of slowly wind down, slowly start ramping up. So now that we are in a few days in, today on recording is March 4th. So, fourth day, fourth month, we're in a little four energy portal of creating structure. Um, so, you know, now that we're in this five energy month, even though we're on a 4-4 portal day, this five energy month is saying, okay, foundations, okay, expression, okay, relationships. How strong is it actually? And do you actually feel free in those areas of your life? So, the five energy, all of the odd numbers can feel a lot more activating. So that question may create a great deal of restlessness in you. Five energy is restless energy to begin with. So this month, expect to feel kind of antsy, itchy feet. But it has to do with it's the invitation is what is making you feel free? What will make you feel free? And so that's what gives us the itchy feet. So I want to dive into this karmic debt concept because, like I said at the beginning, when we add up this month, it adds up to the number 14. So that one and the four. In numerology, the 145 is referred to as a karmic debt number. And this is the central theme because karmic debt carries a very specific life lesson for us. And it has to do with the misuse or the overindulgence of freedom in past cycles. Let me say that again. This karmic debt energy, the number five, this month in particular, has a very specific lesson. It is about the misuse or the overindulgence of freedom in past cycles. So, this is not to wave a finger at ourselves or other people. This is to call in and basically shake us up and give us a wake up call. The five energy, a lot of times, is referred to as change. Whenever I see a five anywhere in any readings, I know instantly that this has whatever is happening with it has to do with change, tangible, real life change. So, this karmic debt energy has to do with scattered energy. It has to do with avoiding commitment. It has to do with impulsivity dressed up as freedom. And so this 145 month of April is kind of saying, hey, you've been here before. This is freedom without discipline is going to cost you. Now, here's where we start getting into the topic of freedom and the word discipline. The path through the 145 energy month that we're in right now is not restriction. Discipline doesn't necessarily mean restriction. It's about conscious choices and conscious structure. Okay. It's about I. Remember, the one is about I, individual, and the four is about structure, conscious structure, the work. So, freedom, true freedom, is built on stable self, it's built on intentional action. So, that is what the gift is this month. This is what the invitation is this month. And this is where I want to challenge our thinking and our belief system around the word discipline. Discipline is not about punishment, it's not rigidity. It's really about a new again, here's a new agreement on the word discipline. It's deciding that discipline for you is about consistent actions to create the life that you want. And those consistent actions are aligned with you. Now, one of the things that helped me think about discipline in a more positive way, and it was coming at me in a real negative way. I was physically, I had no freedom. 2020, summer of 2023 was particularly bad all the way into the fall. I was very sick. I was in bed almost the whole time. I had a like almost I had a spiritual understanding of the word discipline because I have IBS, and what I needed to do was have the discipline to research for me because I wasn't getting anywhere with medical professionals. There was very limited things that they could do just to help me feel better. So it was that discipline of like diving in and being a researcher and finding out those things for myself. Um, and not just saying, well, okay, my doctor doesn't said that he can't do anything, and I guess I'm just going to be lying in bed. I had all of my freedom was stripped away from me that summer, and I felt it was awful. And so I realized that it was through the discipline of the food that I was nourishing my body with. It was the discipline of the doing the trauma work, doing the counseling, doing the inner work, doing like kind of that mental and spiritual aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it. Um, and then the physical aspect of like, just getting up and walking to the end of the block, if that was the first thing, that's the only thing I can do at the time. But it was this understanding, deep understanding that if I want freedom, if I want to get out of bed and have my life back, that I needed to be disciplined with a bunch of things together. And so I slowly started realizing this, and it came with a lot of tears and, you know, just kind of realizing where I was with it and that I just needed I needed to have I needed the discipline in this really positive way to show me that I could have my freedom back. And it worked. It really did work. So what I hope that story shares with you is that whenever we have had any kind of success, and I have been symptom free from IBS for probably like a year and a half now, feeling really, really good. What I realized is that anything that we have wanted in our life, like really, really wanted, whether it was uh, a new career or the beginning of our career, what was training that we wanted, whether it was to fit into a wedding dress or, to feel, like hot summer ready, whether it was to buy a house, to start saving to buy a house, all of those things, all of those successes required discipline. So I've now been able to reframe the version of discipline that I had into something much more positive so that I know that I don't have to just kind of fight against the belief systems of discipline now. So, April's invitation is to make friends with discipline. It's not your cage. Honestly, it is the key. And so, the overarching question this month is, what does freedom actually mean to me, to you? And it can change. That can change for you. And it can change. You're probably going to have, what does freedom mean to me as far as my career, my earning potential? What does freedom mean to me in my personal life, in my relationships? There's so many aspects of freedom, but this month is the invitation to ask yourself, what does freedom mean to me? And am I feeling that right now? Because if you're not feeling it in any of those places, let's dive into a little bit more that might give you some more clues about how to find that freedom. So sometimes I like to think of these numbers as archetypes, and I love working with women, and I love seeing women rise in their personal lives and their careers and their just life in general. I love seeing that. And so this time I wanted to do something a little different and on the podcast and kind of create a little archetype about the five energy woman and who she is, that feminine energy. And so in Pythagorean numerology, which is the methodology that I use, five is the number of physical experiences. So remember when I said earlier, when I see a number five, I know that it's like a physical, tangible thing is changing. And so when we're thinking of an archetype, of a feminine archetype, think about like the five senses, the body, the tangible world. She doesn't just think her way through life, she feels into it. All right. So you can see her as like wild woman energy, wild woman archetype. I could probably make my hair a little bit more wild woman-ish this month. I've got the perfect hair for it, big hair. She's wild woman, but she is not reckless. She is free, but she is grounded. She is sensual, but she was discerning. She's fearless and she's very wise. And she knows the difference between kind of fuck around and find out, which is a very five energy saying, and avoidance. Versus, and also the fuck around and find out and sovereignty as like her sovereign choice. So this month, play around with that energy, that vibe, as far as like being like experiment, see what happens, but not in a way of avoidance, but as a way of sovereign choice. You see, the five energy makes decisions about it makes decisions from embodied wisdom. Like this isn't the energy of seven, of like the in part of it is the intellect, like, it's the intellectual aspect of it. This is more, it's more than just mental strategy. She's using that embodiment to give her information. She trusts her body. She trusts her instincts, and she uses that intuition alongside of her logic. One of the feminine archetypes that I've been studying and reading about is Hecate. She is a Greek goddess of the underworld, and she is the goddess of witchcraft. But it's kind of funny when you start researching her and understanding her, it's because she grew up in the underworld, and so she used the resources that she had. And so it's not like she's just like this, you know, like negative witchcraft, like I'm going to cast a spell on you just because I don't like you. No, it's just this think of her as like kind of the lonely young witch in the woods who had to grow up in the woods kind of on her own with her own resources. And so if you want a really fabulous resource, the book Hecate by Nikita Gill is fabulous. It's fairly new. The audiobook is a beautiful book to listen to in her voice. When I think about the wild woman five energy, I'm looking at like, like she is a bit witchy. Okay, she is a bit wild. She doesn't really give a fuck about what anybody else thinks or says about her. She trusts what she knows and she trusts what she feels. And so, in the realm of entrepreneurship, if you are an entrepreneur, this is very much the antidote to overthinking your business strategy. And I love looking at business as a science experiment. So that's another way of looking at it. It just takes away that fear, the overthinking, and just kind of like general second guessing for yourself. Um, so this month, you are being invited to channel this wild woman, this five energy of adventure, play, and just like getting out there, movement, moving forward. And so I have a couple questions for you. If you were to channel your inner wild woman this month as the five energy archetype, there's a couple situations here as far as money. What would she do with her money situation? If she had that inner wisdom that I'm gonna give it a try, I'm gonna trust my gut, I know what I know. What would she say about her relationship situation? And what would she decide about her business if she was an entrepreneur? Now, if you have a ruling number, if you're a life path number five, or you are in a personal year five, this month will be a interesting month for you. You really want to pay attention to this five energy. So how you figure out your ruling number, your life path number, it's another way of calling it, is we add up your birthday digits all singularly. So mine is June 22nd, 1971. So it's 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 1 adds up to 28. And then we reduce the 2 and the 8 and it comes up with a 1 or a 10. So that's how you come up with a ruling number. And that is kind of your overall frequency. And we're able to see kind of life lessons, general life lessons, life themes that are going on for you. The other number that could show up with a five is a personal year. Now that gets added up with your month and your day, and then 2026. So if you are in a personal year five, then a lot of these 5 month energies will be a theme for you your year. So it would be starting, if it was 2026, Your birthday plus 2026, it's your birthday at 2026. That whole year is your personal year. The other reason why I'm talking about this, not only for you to familiarize yourself with the five energy, if it's your ruling number or you're in a personal year, is because when we double up these numbers, it intensifies things. So just know life's not crazy. You're not going crazy, that it's just amplifying it because it's also part of your code. Now, I want to give you a few like high vibrations, low vibrations of the five energy because I feel like it's really easy to help us identify when we're in the high or the low. Um, and we can kind of move ourselves between them if we're finding ourselves feeling stuck at any point. So the high five is playful energy, it's inner child energy, it's remembering what you love to do. It's experimenting without overthinking things. So maybe think back to when you were a kid. What did you love to do? Like, what was your thing? Go do that this month. One of my things, and it just fits like so funny perfectly with a ruling number 10, my code, is I remember sitting and just like looking at clouds and like daydreaming and watching the clouds move and take shapes and then daydreaming some more. And that is part of who I am. It's like I am the visionary. But that's a playful part of my code. So think about what you used to love to do when you were a little kid and go do that or a version of that. Five energy is very sensual and embodied. This month be really present in your body. Pay attention to your experiences and how it feels in your body. Not just not just what you're thinking, but what you're feeling. Also, decisions may be felt more from wisdom, not just analysis. That's another piece where you might notice it. Fearlessness is a high vibration. It's not, and that doesn't mean that there's no fear. It's just that you've made the decision to move past it. That's what fearlessness means. And so this is an energy of I'm gonna try the thing. Screw it. I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna do it. Sovereignty is an energy of the five. This means that you are the authority of your life. I often talk about sovereignty in eight energy months and eight energy years as well. But this sovereignty piece is part of it because like it's part of that wild woman um, energy. It's like she's not just wild and crazy. Like she just really doesn't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. That's sovereignty. So this month, freedom doesn't require anybody else's permission. You are the main character, and act it out this month as you know, you are the main character of your story. And that might be very difficult for so many of us to do because we've grown up as caregivers, we've entered professions as caregivers, we've become mothers. Many of us are caring for our aging parents. And so we're very, very much entrenched in caring for other people. And so we may have found ourselves through life all of a sudden not feeling so sovereign, not feeling like we are the authority in our life because we've literally have been thinking and doing and working for everybody else. We've kind of forgot about ourselves. So this month might poke at that for you in a really good way. And discipline. This is another high vibration of the five. This is the reframe of the word discipline. This is about the constant actions that create freedom in your life, period. That's the reframe. Constant, consistent actions that create freedom. That's what I want. You want that. I want that. It's not about restriction. I know that some of my clients I've worked with, we've had some very long conversations about discipline and where that came from and those belief systems that they know they're still carrying from childhood about discipline, especially if you grew up in a really disciplined, what we call disciplined household. Um, that's why we need the reframe, is because that wasn't discipline. That was just power over. And so, like we want to change kind of like that old masculine. toxic masculine paradigm of control. We're shifting it out of feeling like it's restriction and it's into freedom. It's about chosen structure. Discipline is my choice, not somebody else's choice. It's my choice to choose freedom. And if you haven't already made friends with discipline this month, I invite you to do that. It's okay. It'll be challenging. That's how we learn things. Now let's talk about the low vibrations. Lack of discipline is one of them. Biggest one right at the top. It's different. Just because you know what you want doesn't mean that you're doing the consistent work to get it. There's a gap between inattention and action, period. Or there's a gap between what you think you're doing and what you're actually doing, right? So we can have all the best intentions, but are you actually doing it? Are you actually following through? Restlessness and the inability to commit or follow through is a really common low vibration of five. So don't feel bad if you find yourself having a hard time working this month. Five energy wants to go out and play. And especially if you're in a part of the world where, the weather's getting better, it's getting a little warmer. Yeah, I honestly want to be out gardening rather than doing the podcast. But this is part of my discipline. And I know that I love doing these forecasts, but they're also a lot of work. And so, but they also bring me wonderful people to work with and connect with. So, this is where that piece of discipline, lack of discipline, restlessness, we know the things. It's just a matter of doing the constant, consistent work. You also might find yourself, as far as this restlessness, just having a hard time finishing things. So, what I like to do is, especially in five energy days and five energy months, is to have the structure around how I need to get things done. But I also structure in my play and try to keep top of mind, like go out and play, go out and adventure. What does adventure look like to me? What does adventure feel like to me? What does play feel like to me? And it could vary day to day. Feeling scattered or chaotic, that's another low vibe that we could be feeling this month. Another one is overindulgence and numbing out. So that could be like numbing out with food, alcohol, scrolling, shopping, keeping busy. Really, this is about avoiding the real question about discipline. Sorry, I hate to tell you. Um, Okay, another bullet here I have for low vibe of five is impulsivity dressed up as freedom, because it's kind of a sneaky one. So, impulsivity can feel like boldness, like screw it, I'm going out. I'm going to go out and play. Looks like brave, bold moves, but again, it's actually avoidance rather than true discipline. Codependency, that's a low vibe of the five. Because it's prioritizing somebody else's state over yours. It's literally the opposite direction of sovereignty. So if you find yourself in codependent situations, don't be too hard on yourself, because we've learned those behaviors. We've learned that way to be within relationships, but we can also unlearn them and also decide we don't like being like having those interactions anymore. And their low vibe is fear, fear of change, fear of what freedom actually feels like or looks like, fear of being fully seen. That one's really big when it comes to entrepreneurship. Like, there's some of y'all have some really fabulous services that you offer, amazing products that you offer, but there's this like fear of being seen, and it's literally keeping you your city's best kept secret. And finally, the low vibration, you are in the low vibe of five, is when you feel caged. That is often the result of like what I've just talked about, of all of those low vibe things. The trap is when we avoid discipline, we scatter our energy, we give our sovereignty away, and then we're wondering why we feel stuck. And so, what we often realize at this place of really distilling freedom and really exploring what freedom looks like and what we've been doing for our own freedom, we often realize that the cage was just us. All right, let's talk about action steps for April because I want to always give you practical, tactical, tangible things to do with these energies, not just like wait for them to arrive and, oh well, we'll see. I am a visionary. I love creating. I love strategy. I love all the practical aspects of life. Um, and I love the visioning aspect of it. But I also want to make sure that I'm taking vision into reality and vision into it's a real thing. All right. Let's start these action steps when it comes to money and business freedom. You're going to notice a little shift happening, uh, particularly next month's podcast. I have had some great, wonderful um, awareness in my life, in my work that I do, the work that I do with other women. I had that awareness come really strongly last month, and so over the last month, I've been behind the scenes making some changes, and you will see those shifts in May's podcast, but you'll also probably see them rolling out in my social media as well. I'm moving back into working with women entrepreneurs again. I've had a year off of working kind of having my fingers in businesses, other people's businesses, for personal reasons. My dad got really sick. I've had to deal with family, and then I needed to take care of myself. So I'm back to work. Feel like I'm back, head in the game, working with women's businesses. After a full year. It's crazy how fast time goes, but I just needed the time. I needed the time to shift, to learn about myself, to process grief, to decide also what are my new agreements? What do I want out of life this next phase of my life? So lots of changes, lots of questions. And so on that note, I'm going to be starting these action steps off with business in mind, particularly money and business freedom, because we all know, we've all been there, that we cannot be free in our business if we don't know what's happening with our money or if it feels out of control. Okay, uh, action step one, if you would like to. Um, Define what financial freedom actually looks like for you, not the Instagram version, folks, please. Um, I don't, we don't need industry benchmarks. I want to know what your version of financial freedom looks like. I came to terms with this many years ago that my version of financial freedom does not look like an expensive handbag and like a high-end car. Absolutely not. I really cannot give two shits about those things. To me, that kind of financial freedom is that I can travel when and where I want to, as many times as I care to. That means that I can, if I want to renovate my kitchen, I can renovate my kitchen. If I want to buy a house, I can buy a house, a newer house. I'm not talking a really big house because a big house just to me just means more rooms to clean. I want my version of, my fairy tale is to have like a cottage somewhere on the edge of the woods. I have my garden, um, to be able to travel, to be able to have as much free time as I want, to be able to work with the people that I want, to have sovereignty over anything I want to do in my life. Like those are the version of freedom to me. And so it can be anything. If you want to go live in a tiny house somewhere, or if you want to go live off grid, that's your version of financial freedom, let her rip. So this month, think about what does that mean to you? And then once you have that kind of like an idea of like how you want to live, what kind of car is it? Do you care? Um, then you can kind of look at what's the actual number of financial freedom? What does that mean to you? What does the day look like? Because usually it's a lot easier to start from what the feeling is. So write it down this month. What does financial freedom look like for you? Now, the second question is for you, if you are an entrepreneur, um, but also just in your personal life as far as money and freedom. Where are you avoiding structure around money? Name it. This is huge. You've heard me talking about um, Ryan Holiday. He wrote The Obstacle is the Way. It's based on Marcus Aurelius, and this is basically life. The obstacle is the way, as much as annoying it is as it is. So when it comes to money, what structure are you avoiding? Are you not sending invoices out on time? Are you not paying your invoices on time? Are you not reviewing your numbers? Are you paying yourself inconsistently? Are you doing the whole karmic debt of I'll deal with it later? For me, that's a big one for me is I'll deal with it later, especially when I'm in my low vibration of anything, is I'll just want to avoid it. And it's also my money trauma response is to freeze, which is to avoid. That was another interesting exploration is learning about your money trauma. Go check out Megan Alton. She's had some training around money trauma. And once you understand how you react to money, like that freeze, fawn, fight or flight, it's fascinating when you apply that to money. So with this question about what are you avoiding, what structure are you avoiding around money and name it, discipline with your money is your path to financial freedom. I think we all know that, but a lot of times we have so much more fun doing what we love to do in our business, and it's usually not numbers. But this is the challenge this month. Let's talk about relationship freedom. Freedom in your relationship actually starts with knowing what you need and then asking for it. So this month, take a look at which relationships feel like freedom and which ones feel like a cage. Like this isn't to like blow anything up, to light a match, flick it out behind you, but this is about seeing things clearly. Clarity first. Clarity first. Um, the other aspect of looking at our relationship in the lens of the five energy about emotional freedom is where are you operating from codependency versus true connection? We can often get caught in these patterns of codependency early in our relationships because we learn them usually from our families. And so this month, as far as relationship freedom, it's asking you, where do you keep shrinking to keep the peace? This will be one for that leads into next month's six energy because six energy is about balance and harmony. And a lot of times, six energy is shrinking to keep the peace. So this month is like asking you, shaking it up. Hey, where are you shrinking to keep the peace? Are you responsible for somebody else's emotional state? Do you find that you are often end up regulating other people's emotions? Like if they're upset, you're calming them down. That kind of energy. If they're angry, you're you're finding you're trying to create more peace and quiet in the home. So those are those places where we inadvertently are managing, literally managing somebody else's nervous system. Sovereignty in a relationship doesn't mean detachment. It really just means showing up for yourself whole. That's what sovereignty means. Now, are there any new agreements in your relationship that you want to make? This month is, again, these questions all lend to what needs a new agreement? What do you want to ask for? What do you want to offer? What do you want to release? All right, let's shift into career and purpose freedom. So if you're at work and it is not feeling like freedom most of the time, then this month is simply asking you why. Why doesn't it feel like freedom? And maybe you've actually been able to identify why it doesn't feel like freedom. So it might be that you are exploring ways to create upcoming freedom for yourself. So what does freedom actually look like to you in your work on the day to day, specifically? Because if we don't have an idea of what that looks like, it's really difficult to move towards a goal when we can't see it. So, but maybe if you have a business, or even in your office, does it look like you've got a more balanced schedule, a better client mix? Is it the type of work that would be different? Maybe it's like how you're selling or how you're helping, how you're coaching, how you're training. But unless you identify it, it's very difficult to move towards it. And where is discipline actually the path to more freedom in your career? So, what I'm getting at here is, what is the thing you keep avoiding that would literally change everything? I think we're back at the obstacle is the way. So, what it was, is there something that you could be doing just more consistently that would change everything? Um, April's saying discipline is the freedom. Freedom through discipline. Discipline is the way. And the last point I have here for you in your career, or business is, what are you tolerating that is keeping you caged? So that could be a draining client, a teammate that is causing a lot of drama. Maybe you've outgrown the kind of services that you offer, and you're ready to shift into something different. Um, Sometimes as entrepreneurs, it's really hard to shift things because we feel like everybody knows us as this thing, as this service, as this product. But if you're truly not feeling free anymore from it, then you're allowed to change. Okay. So whether you've got a draining client, it's like an outgrown pace, or a service, maybe it's your pricing structure isn't working for you anymore. Either way, you can't build freedom on, kind of a house of cards. So again, this month is the month to name the thing that you've been tolerating, that's keeping you caged, that's keeping you small, because naming it is your first step to sovereignty with that. All right, my friends, April is not asking you to have it all figured out. The five will feel disruptive. In fact, I think I did, south of the border, you know who. Um, I believe he's actually a ruling number five. And they have called him, I think he even calls himself a change agent or an agent of change or something. But like, that is like an extreme five energy of like that fuck around and find out, and just like variety to the point of like it's chaos. So I find it's fascinating to see, some of the five energy things that are happening out there in their extremes, because they do give us information about how we can use them differently. So it's not asking you to have it all figured out. It will be activating, but it really is just asking you to get honest about your freedom, your sovereignty. Like, what do those things mean for you? What do they mean to you and for you? Because freedom isn't necessarily something that just happens. It often is something that we are building, and we want to build it with intention. We want to build it with structure, and we want to build it with discipline. And so, yeah, go ahead, do that, and use a little bit of that fuck around and find out energy along the way to add some spice to it. So it's a powerful, powerful combination for the five energy, this karmic debt, um, pairing of numbers. So this month, let's make friends with discipline. Let's question what it actually means to us. And I'm going to challenge you to take one sovereign action this month. I gave you three different headings of action steps. Take one action step this month. Let me know what that's going to be for you. You can send it to me via email, kirsten@kirstenfoss.com, or comment, wherever you're listening. I promise you that your future self will thank you for having this updated version of what discipline means for you. So Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate those of you that often I get emails and messages from you saying how it landed. And I really appreciate those to know that that numerology, that you're using the numerology in your personal life, in your business to move you forward. So that is the universal forecast for energy of April. If you want a personal reading, to dive deeper into your ruling number, especially your personal year and the energetic timing that's coming up for you, then I urge you to book a reading with me. You can go to kirstenfoss.com. There's a reading tab there and book the one that you want. If you have any questions and not sure which reading is best for you at this time, whatever crossroads you're at, then go ahead and send me a message and I'll help you find the best one for you. All right, enjoy your April. We'll see you next month.